now it's our critical thinking time. And Doug, what do you have for us?
I want to talk about the Super Bowl in terms of the Super Bowl indicator and then tie it into correlation and causation. So there's this thing called the Super Bowl indicator. Have you heard of this?
I've heard of this.
Okay, so the Super Bowl, if you take an old AFL team or an old NFL team before they merged, if the AFL team wins the Super Bowl, it's going to be a bear year. Stocks are going to be down. And if the old NFL team wins the Super Bowl, then it's going to be a bull market and stocks are going to be up.
Well, the thing about this indicator is 35 out of the last 44 times it's been successwell. So that's a 79.5% success rate.
Yeah.
Which is pretty high. That sounds good. So who's going to win?
Well, actually, both teams in the Super Bowl are old NFL teams. So the only team in even the semifinals, the conference championships, that was a new AFL team was the Jets, and the Jets are out. So according to this, there's an 80% chance the market will go up.
Woohoo!
But of course, I'm trying to teach you to be critically thinking about this and not believe such things.
Here I was all excited about that, so you're going to be a downer.
It would be easy, right?
Oh,
you just wonder who the Super Bowl is, and then you'd know whether to invest in the market or not. Well, it's a little more complicated than that, and so this gets into a concept of correlation and causation. So let me give you a couple of examples here. So we'll just take a standard graph. We'll put dollars increasing on the vertical axis, and across the lower axis, we'll talk about education level. So the more money you make, more than likely there's some correlation to your education. Does that make sense?
It sure does.
Okay, so if you have low education, you make low money. There'll be a bunch of people here, and then the more money you make, you have a little better education, and then the top people usually have better education. And you see some sort of plot on data like this, and since it kind of looks like it moves together, there'd be some sort of correlation, and they would say that this is positively correlated. I don't have a paper. I didn't look up a paper to find out exactly what the numbers are. I don't think this holds as well as I've drawn it here. But the idea is the same. Higher education probably make more money. It sounds like it's true. I don't have the data to say it is or not. It's just an example. Let's take a different example here. We'll leave money as the vertical axis, and on the horizontal axis, we'll use hours of TV watching.
Oh, this should be interesting.
So if you think about it, how much money you make and how many hours you watch every day of TV, it's probably the opposite, right? So the people who make a lot of money probably watch a little bit of TV, and then the more money you make, probably the less TV you watch. And so you'd have what's called...
So everyone's going to be turning off the TV right now.
Right. Well, no, I don't know about that. But I mean, if you're watching 14 hours a day of TV, odds are you're probably not making $1 million a year. Although you could be. Not everyone.
If you're a TV executive.
There's outliers everywhere. So, but in general, the correlation probably holds. I don't know that. I don't have a paper to say it does. But this is an idea. So that you can have a positive correlation where this happens, then this happens. Or you could have a negative correlation. This happens, therefore this doesn't happen. Right? So this is a positive correlation. The more education you have, the more money you make. Negative correlation would be the more hours of TV you watch, the less money you make. Right?
Right.
Okay. So these are correlations. Well, if you start talking about it in terms of overall things that don't correlate, to give you an example of a non-correlated thing, you could take money and happiness. Right? Money doesn't bring you happiness. Ask any rich person.
We've all heard that before.
Right? So people would be all over the map on happiness. There'll be happy people at all income levels. There will be sad people at all income levels. And so there is no correlation for certain things. There's no causation to money and happiness, or at least not one that a lot of people have proven that I've found.
Well, there was a study, and it was a country in Africa. It was like one of the poorest countries, and they actually came out to be the happiest.
Yeah, they're very happy because they don't miss all the stuff that we miss. So then they don't have all the stress and so on.
They didn't have the envy.
That's
there
right.
was nobody driving by in a Mercedes or a Lamborghini to say, "Ooh, I want that."
That's right.
Everyone had the same thing, so might as well be happy.
Correlation, simply because the numbers correlate and they seem to form a pattern, does not mean they mean anything. So in the case of the Super Bowl indicator, you know, whether the AFL or NFL, old NFL teams win the Super Bowl, it has no bearing on whether the stock market goes up or down. It's just the way the numbers in the last 44 times have worked out.
But it sure would be nice.
Well, yeah, but you can't. That's the
hope.
mistake. People think, oh yeah, well that's why, and they go, but there's no causation. There might be a correlation, but there's no causation. So it's crucial that you don't just believe numbers like 35 out of 44 times, 80% of the time it works. Let's go bet our money, because that's not reality. So it's very important that you understand that there's correlation and then there's causation. And just because somebody came up with scientific numbers that say there's a correlation doesn't actually mean there's causation.
Okay, and what's your takeaway?
The takeaway is evidence ends argument, sometimes. At other times, evidence needs to be carefully analyzed if it's to be really useful.